God damn it. You may have to reset this up again. I just pushed the wrong button. I'm not thinking clearly. We're just going to start the show. We're just going to start it because I totally screwed this up.
Start it early. Let's do it. We're going to reset it. You're ready to do it.
Okay, let me see how to do this here. Hello, we're starting early today.
Because you pushed the
I pushed the wrong button, so I'm going to start early. So we're going to start the programming early. Just want to make sure we're set up properly. There we are. Okay, we're starting the program early today, which we weren't going to do. So
But it's only a half hour.
we're going to about a half hour early. So we got a lot to talk about. So I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. So we're going to try to. I have to call Dennis in because Dennis is going to be one of our hosts today, and I'm just going to tell him we're doing a live show right now.
And we'll run it as long as we want.
Dennis Carius, okay. Dennis Carius, I can't see. Let's go back to here. My eyes are so bad. Let me see. Oh, let me get over here. Let me get you over to a different location. Can you see that for me, please? I got to close this down first of all.
What is it you want to see?
I can't see what I'm doing.
What?
Where is the cursor? I want to make. No, don't move that thing. That's my problem. Okay. Now I want to change this over to here.
Big face.
I want to change this over to here so I can't see this.
We may have to close this blind until later because it's so much light.
No, I can't do that. There's something wrong with my mouse, or something's happening. Something's not right here. Okay, okay, let me just get this to save. Now I have to call Dennis up. Now let me see what Dennis is. Dennis Carius. Where is Dennis? Where is Dennis Carius here? Is that Dennis Carius? Okay. I'm going to call Dennis up and tell him I pushed the button, so we're live right now.
Okay. Live it is. Live.
So if you guys are listening early, we have an audience.
Hello.
Good morning to Wednesday World Call In.
Yes. Good morning.
Well, I know I'm a little early, but I pushed the button early, so we're live right now.
Oh, wow, you're kidding.
No.
Wow, we're live right now.
Right. So anyway, I haven't played the music yet, so I'm going to try to play the music and start the show right now. And I got to see what time it is. So let me just make yours. I've been playing with this computer and I pushed the wrong button. I wasn't thinking. The trouble with computers is you got to really, if you push the button wrong, it's 9:26. We're going to start the program in about 4 minutes, but it's actually running live now. So whatever you say is being recorded and it's open, it's on the air.
How long will this show be?
We can run it to 11 o'clock like we planned. There's always something to talk about.
Okay, good.
So if you have anything you want to talk about, that's fine. Anybody can call in at the program on Skype if they choose. This is Bridges Programming. Call in on Skype. We just heard from Mindy and Paul Yerkin Mindy Yerkin and Paul Marco from Ecuador. That's what screwed me up. I wasn't quite sure what's going on. The video you're looking at right now is in Moorhaven, Florida, in the yard. That's so beautiful, and you can check that out. This is the nice place to be. So anyone listening now, and we're going to actually start the real program with our music in about, I'd say about two minutes, and we'll start off. So Dennis, I appreciate you being here. We may interject, what's his name, Bucky again today, because and we're going to talk about the critical path, which is what we're all on, a critical path. And if you can go right on your computer screen, Dennis, you'll be able to see us. We can't see you yet, but I think you're working on that project now, so you can be physically part of the programming.
Okay, I'm going to go online and say hi to you.
Okay, and you'll see and then we'll do that. And in about another minute and a half, I'm going to start Bridges. So we're going to start a half hour earlier today. Not that we planned it. This is unplanned, but we actually we're flexible.
Yay! I'm happy.
And let's see. I have Bill Staines on another screen, so I'm on two screens now. I'm learning how to do this, and I can push this button. Oh, this is great. Okay, so you see what I got here? I can go on another screen right here. See that?
Great.
You see where I am now on the screen?
Yeah.
And I can start that and play. Okay, we're going to start in 1 minute. And we're going to be live here in a minute. So we're going to play.
Languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than they all. There are canyons, they are yawning in the night. They are rank and bitter anger, they are all devoid of light. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. Let us build a bridge of music, let us cross it with a song. Let us span another canyon, let us write another wrong. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and we'll be off and on our way. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. We will tell them building bridges and be off and
We will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Thank you, Bill Staines, for allowing us to use this music, Bridges song, on Bridges programming. Welcome to Wednesday World Call-In. This is a live show, and because it's a live show, we actually screw up a lot, but that's okay.
That was interesting. We went from the looking outside to coming in here, and here's the tree from.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if Dennis. Welcome to Bridges Programming.
Outside.
This is sponsored by the HREM, Human Renewable Energy Measure. It's to say every human being in the world must have their basic needs met, their education, food, and shelter for 1 hour of their life anywhere in the world. And if we can get that as a measurement, put into the vocabulary, we can probably change the world. That's simple. And the measurement is simple. I mean, this is interesting. We went to outside trees to the inside tree, and the tree I'm wearing is a marker to show the ships. It's a cedar, and it was show the ships where they are, and they line up to come into the Caloosahatchee River.
Or Hatchie River.
And it's a cedar tree out there. It's still out there. It's been over 100 years. And people require markers to show them where they are. You are here. And that's what we are missing in our vocabulary around the world, that all humanity
to protect
life. Their basic needs met, their education, food, and shelter for 1 hour of labor because of so much technology. And if we can do that, we'll stop the wars in Syria, Africa, all over the world. And right now, there's no way to do that because no one
is in agreement.
There's an agreement of where we are and how we get there.
And what our goals are, what our real goal of our economics should
be. Our physical goals.
Our physical goal of our economics should be. And we're just talking about a significant change in the way we do economics worldwide. We are either willfully or just just ignorantly doing things with our economics that has side effects or right angle effects, as Buckminster Fuller would refer to them, that are damaging.
That are killing people.
And you can't just be looking at the symptoms of this, which is the terrorism and the reaction of fanatics all around the world, and desperate people who are fighting back. You can't just look at that. You have to look at what is upsetting them. What has created a situation that is so desperate that they are doing acts of terrorism. We are not innocent in this
we
context.
Are complicit, in matter of fact.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
And we've been told, well, we're either, as I say, we're either doing it out of ignorance and don't realize, and oftentimes things that we do, we have no idea what the side effects are going to be. But by now we know that war is a side effect, poverty is a side effect of our economics.
And it's not
we know these
poverty
things.
is not a normal function for human beings.
No, it's not a natural
poverty
state.
Is not a natural state. It's our economic system we're
That
putting our
creates
people in poverty, which in turn creates wars. So, I mean, there would be no reason in this world for ISIS. But ISIS, I think, people aren't talking about this, but the reason why ISIS is so strong, and they're using economics, by the way, to stay strong, is because they feel as though the Western world is killing people for greed or for ambition.
They may not even realize themselves any more than we realize the damage we're doing, why they're fighting back.
Right.
But, if you step back and you're a rational person, you can start to see yourself, what these interactions are doing, what this means. We got some very good constructive criticism the other day that, we've been getting very good at laying out the problems.
So in every show, we're going.
He was asking us if we would present more solutions in our program. So go ahead.
So in every show, we're going to tell you there's going to be a solution. We feel as though we found a solution to world hunger, to world peace, and to get this so it happens. But it's not one person can't do this. It must come from the individual who understands that they themselves in the Western world
have some responsibility.
And they are killing people every day. And we've got to understand that. We don't want to do this.
It's not a criticism. It's something that people need to just be much more aware of, so that they can then cooperate with each other towards solutions that are regenerative and not creating more wars, not creating more stress and economic stress.
I want to introduce Dennis Carius here. Dennis, are you there?
He's on the line, I hope.
Dennis? Do we have Dennis here?
Dennis is here. He's looking at Jeff and Susan. And I know they have trees in the backyard, but Jeff has a tree right on his chest.
Now
That's
this,
right.
now this tree, Dennis, is probably 2 blocks away from here, a block away from here on the
Probably
Calusa,
almost 300 years
a
old.
300-year-old tree that was left there, and it's a huge cedar tree for the town to show the boaters or the people who are shipping stuff
Way back when.
300 years ago that this is where you have to line up to, and here's where you are in your chart. So it tells people where they are, and that's what's missing from our vocabulary. So, and we think before the show is out, we're going to, on every program, we're going to say to you how you can possibly do something to help change the world. That you don't have to buy money, give us money or join a group or give us your social security number or your firstborn. All you need, or vote for the right person. No, none of this. All you've got to do is understand that you and I in the Western world are killing people every day for natural resources. Not that we understand physically, directly we are, but indirectly, because of our economy, we are killing people all around the world.
Because the economics is based on profit.
Right.
And the endless making of profit, and the concentration of power and profit in the hands of a few. This is the way
Talk a little louder.
that our economics operates and continues to operate. I mean, but the thing is, what Buckminster Fuller was talking about in his critical path about the idea of precession that he was defining, and we're about halfway through the book, that nature really he felt that nature wants us to succeed as a species and to be an integral and creative part of all the life on this planet. And he concluded things like hydrogen as life on this planet. And he makes the point that we are as a species making a lot of mistakes, and a lot of our intentions and our actions are not are pretty out of kilter, and focused on things that are really not very helpful in terms of all the rest of the life around us, and in fact destructive. But he said that he feels that nature wants us to succeed and is transforming a lot of these things that we do. Like our intent may be to, just like, well, he made the example of bees, honeybees, and he said that the bee, and if you think of a bee as a human, sort of, will go into a flower because they're going after the nectar and the pollen that they use in their hives, and to feed other bees. And he says, well, they go in there and they're bumbling around and all that, and then they go into another flower and they inadvertently are fertilizing other flowers. That's not their intention, but that's what happens. And then that's to the benefit of the tree or the flowers that they're going to one at a time, and you can see how this is a good thing for life in general, and their intent was kind of, well, what Dennis might call sort of greedy, but it isn't. It's life sustaining for their hive, and so they're imprinted to do this, and it's over millions of years has evolved in this way for the bees to behave in this way, and then their hives are sustainable. Unfortunately, at this point, honeybees are very threatened by a lot of viruses, and you can educate yourself about that. This is just a sideline, but if you go to the site renewtheearth.org, there's just yesterday a YouTube film posted there about this subject of what's harming the bees and why they're dying. But anyway, back to the side effects. Nature what humans would call side effects of their actions, of their conscious drives. In fact, these things produce the main, and this is a quote from Buckminster Fuller, these side effects are the main ecological effects of generalized technological regeneration. These are the main effects that nature chooses. The side effects that we think are side effects are the main effects. And if you think of it, therefore, he goes on to say, do you understand what
I want to clarify that.
Okay, yeah.
It took me a long time to
Right, that's why I'm
mentally put
repeating
that.
I'm repeating.
Okay,
Right.
look, for instance, you take a pill for, let's say, an allergy pill because you have a cold, and the pill works for the cold, but it gives you may have a problem where it's going to give you anxiety or a heart attack. Well, once the side effect kicks in for a heart attack, that's a reality. That's very much a reality.
Well, that's not a regenerative side effect, but that is a side effect.
It's a side effect,
right,
and
right.
it becomes a reality, and it is regenerative because you're going to die.
Oh, and then something will replace you.
And then
right.
so
that could be nature's intent.
So every time we think about something, there's always a side effect, and we have to realize that that's part of the synergy.
Yeah, and that's what that synergetics was another thing that Buckminster Fuller talked about.
In other words, people who are ambitious decide to work, and they moved it into a money-making proposition, so it looks like they're greedy. So the synergy became poverty-stricken. That is not a natural cause.
Not a natural state.
A state of nature. It becomes where it kills people because of the way they are functioning in the way a bee would function, or the way we're imprinted to do, to keep on doing things to benefit people, which we're not.
So,
as Dennis would call it, we're now dysfunctional. Part of our society is a dysfunctional government, as Dennis would call it, right, Dennis? You'd call it dysfunctional government?
Well, yes, but it's dysfunctional economics that is propelling all of
I would
this.
say part of this is dysfunctional, yes.
Right. So, it's actually a dysfunctional, as Susan said, a dysfunctional economic system. That the backlash or the side effect is killing.
And the side effect is dysfunctional government.
Right.
But when you see these kind of side effects, like you're saying, poverty, war, I'm just using those as the broad brush, but there are many, many more kinds of suffering that occur when people can't get what they need to live. Food, shelter, education. They don't get those things. Stresses are all kinds of stresses evolve. But if those kind of stresses and those kind of symptoms are what are occurring, nature is not now on our side, so to speak. These side effects are not going to be regenerative for our species.
They're going to kill our species.
And that will be nature's intent, to get rid of us, because this experiment is not working. But she gave us a brain. And we have an excellent deductive reasoning. And if we see these symptoms, we're supposed to let that brain kick in. And here's a solution. You decide whether these kind of symptoms are what, should go into the future as a species. You decide, and then you say, most rational people would say, no, we don't want these kind of stresses and results from our actions. We want, we want things to progress in a more
humane
manner and regenerative manner, support, and in our interaction with the rest of nature and life on Earth, to be, creative, to say the least. So we can make choices. We can make agreements with each other as a human species on how we want to behave. Just to reiterate, and Buckminster Fuller's definition of precession is very close to what he spoke about a lot. His kind of redefinition of synergy also is that we take actions like like Jeff and I and Dennis are doing this program, and we have no idea what the side effects are going to be. But they can be regenerative in some way, if you're lucky. They can also, annoy people and maybe, create a situation where there's tensions arise. But we don't know. We can't control these symptoms, these side effects. This is the synergy, and that's where a broader kind of action, or whatever you want to call it, the operation of nature itself and our place in the universe comes into effect, which we don't understand completely because there's so many elements involved. There's such a huge mix. But what is happening with precession, it's the way that nature takes what we humans are doing and reimagines or transforms it into what will ultimately be regenerative and sustainable. Now, there's a certain point, I think, where nature says, okay, look, I can do so much for you. I'm anthropomorphizing, I know, nature and making it sound like it's an entity that can communicate in this way. But for purposes of what we're doing here, as I said, we have a brain that can make decisions, make agreements, make conversation with other people about what they hope for, what they'd like to see in the future. We cannot make these decisions under stress or when we're in a great deal of a fearful situation. We're in a fight or flight response type of situation, which a lot of people are in right now, and they can't have a certain amount of quiet time to set something up like this where we can talk maybe to more people than you can meet in a month within an hour's amount of time, and try to present some different way of looking at our situation. That we are hearing so much on the news, about losing freedoms, for the sake of safety, fear driving people to commit acts of terrorism and acts of brutality that are incredible. But this is what we're hearing, and it's making everybody edgy. And there's got to be another voice out there. And it's not like Jeff and I have a whole lot of free time to just hang out and be calm and all that. We just have a little bit more than maybe most people to think a little bit. We have all kinds of demands on us also, and stresses, but we've chosen to use this little windows that we have to try to communicate something that's hopeful, that there are solutions to this, and we feel that it lies within our ability to make agreements with each other as a species. It isn't through governments. It isn't through law. It's through our personal communication as humans with each other, and the way that we can then say, like we've agreed on so many things that we use all the time. And that's why we call what we're talking about the Human Renewable Energy Measure. It's a measurement.
It's part of the vocabulary.
And if you think about
like foot, inch, miles, time, date.
Those are all agreements. They were not created by governments. They were created by agreements
species.
Within our species, with the way that we trial and error and communication and deductive reasoning. We came up with solutions for how to calculate time. We came up with solutions with how to calculate distance, weight, measures, all these things that we use all the time, and they seem like, they've always been there and they didn't come from anywhere. But they're so very important because these are the agreements that are the most important ones. And we have an agreement that we have not come to yet because it is so we actually had it back in tribal times. We did have this agreement.
But it wasn't measured.
And it wasn't measured, but it was absolutely logical and obvious to people that when you have a group, you have to help the whole group. You know, the whole tribe helps each other. They all make sure each, person gets a little bit of whatever food or safety or what, everyone knows sharing. As the population has grown and we've become, over the thousands of years, quite, divided into nations and all different kinds of belief systems and stuff. This has created a situation where people don't think they have that commonality anymore, or that responsibility to each other as a species, that's like obsolete. It's like, not necessary anymore, but it is absolutely necessary, and a measure within our most dominant and aggressive system, which is economics right now, needs to preserve and protect our right to life as a species.
As a species, all right to life, you must have education, food, and shelter. You've got to have those things. Without education, you may walk in front of a bus or let a tree limb fall on you, or take the wrong medication that may give you a heart attack, or may make you so you can't pee, or make it so you go into convulsions. Those are education. When you take a piece of medication, people tell you this is the side effects from it, and you learn. That's part of understanding. So you need education, you need food, and you need shelter. Now,
and everybody always says when we say food and we say education, they want us to also say knowledge and nutrition, because these are much broader words for saying
but
that,
these are just,
and not so co-opted.
What happens is these are cul-de-sacs that
but
the
we'll say that anyway.
Yeah, we'll say it anyway, but the reality is that you
that.
can tell us all the things we're doing wrong. We're not saying the right words. You don't mean this, you mean that. Well, we can go on for hours, and I call that, when someone does that to us, I feel as though they're being intellectually paralyzed.
Or trying to intellectually paralyze us. Right.
So the point I'm making is that you know what we're talking about. You don't have to be. Language has a problem.
We all
a
have
semantic problem. So the answer we think we're going to be, the answer is in language. We need to come to an understanding that, and we all know that everybody needs their education, food, and shelter, and we all know that people in some parts of the world are working for it 16 to 20 hours a day to keep their basic needs met. Well, that's not good, because we know that's also a form of slavery, and that's what we're doing even in the United States. Our kids are busting their backs to make sure they pay off their student loans, which are immaterial. They have no business having a loan. People are trying
They shouldn't need a loan. That education should be free.
Right. Education is free.
All education, as much as your brain can
take. And the better you're educated, the better my society would be, or our society would be. So we can't, so when we say me, it's us. We are part of a group, whether we like it or not. You can be all the individualistic you want, but you got to realize that collectivism is part of being an individual. You can't alone get your food into your place.
And a lot of people are mistaking
the words.
That they say, oh, well, the free market, capitalism, it promotes individuality, but it doesn't. It's making us all into slaves. And future generations are going to look back on this time, and this is a hopeful thought on my part, and they're going to say that was so obvious that they were all slaves to the economy at that time.
Well,
and why did it take so long, so many thousands of years, for people to turn to something different, and something more creative?
It's the same thing they say about energy. We know as a species, that the energy we're using now is finite. oil is finite. It's taking more and more energy to get oil out of the ground than it's worth. And our children, if the species is still here, are going to say, why did you guys keep doing this when you knew better? And they'll be right. I mean, we're doing insanity because we could be using renewable energy. That is gifts of nature that never changes. We've got the mind and the brain to figure this thing out. And if we cut money out of the game and take the profit out of it, we'd have all kinds of renewable energy. We'd stop all the wars because of profit making. These are all, and the way we do this, and here's the solution. And I was yelled at because I didn't give the solutions enough. The solution is really simple. As a matter of fact, it's so simple, people get mad at me again because it's so simple. We need a measurement in the language, and we're calling that measurement a Human Renewable Energy Measure, HREM.org. That measurement, if we could get it, if we could possibly use social media to get that into the language.
And then into the economics.
And then into the economic system. It's from the bottom up. Then our politicians will become functional.
Just like measurements like
sun coming up.
No, but like that have been inserted into economics. Measurements of number measurements, how much money is in the bank. Right. These are measurements that are used constantly within the economic system to no purpose except, more profit infinitely, which is impossible, which is a completely delusional and destructive use of natural resources, which will never come back again, the ones that all the big countries are after, which we were outlining all that in last week's program, which is, horrendous. But what we're saying is we have it in our ability as a human species to form measurements that are essential to our survival, and the way we do it is through talking to each other, communication through indirect communication like we're doing. We don't even know who's listening to us for the most part. Social media, which a lot of people are very, very proficient at. Once they know what they want, and consciously the human mind, the greater human mind, essentially, which is all of our connections with each other worldwide. And I believe this is, this is not mystical stuff. We do quickly relay our ideas to each other. I mean, just through filmmaking and entertainment, you can see how quickly people are picking up new memes, as they call them, new ways of expressions and new ways of saying things and slang and I mean, humans are really interested in newness. The
expression, and have a good one,
right? Or expressions,
or whatever,
or absolutely, which has been clinging on forever, which is a pain in the neck.
And that's such a serious word, but it doesn't. But when someone says no problem,
if we can spread these things so quickly and so easily, we can also spread something that is more profound and that is a beautiful idea, that every human is entitled to their life from birth, that they don't have to make a living, that they don't have to
before you go further,
they don't have to earn a living.
Before you go further, I want to rebroadcast.
They are alive.
I want to rebroadcast the program.
Oh.
You are listening. This is
okay.
Bridget's. It's now 10 o'clock, and this is Bridget's programming.
Oh yeah, we're already begun.
We already started the show a half hour earlier because I pushed the wrong button. So I'll take the full rap for that. Yeah. You're listening to Bridget's programming, sponsored by the Human Renewable Energy Measure. This is Wednesday World Call-In, and we're still learning how to do all these little buttons to push. And the most important thing, though, is what a solution to help stop the wars and give people a better quality of life worldwide. and that's the Human Renewable Energy Measure, and you can look it up, called HREM.org, HREM.org.
And I'm going to be posting regularly now, probably one per month, an attempt at a draft for
A book.
about this concept.
Anybody who wants to write a book about it, who understands it,
or wants to leave comments on the site so that it'll help me
let
make it more
me
clear.
get finished with the introduction.
Right.
So you're listening to the HREM, that's sponsored, the HREM, THE.org,
Which stands for
Human Renewable Energy Measure.
right.
And it's also, we have a nonprofit group that we work with called Renew the Earth, which normally talks about different things, positive things about energy units, or energy.
Sustainable energy practices, renewable energy, but then everything in a broader thing, context than that
and that's
too.
a nonprofit.
Because we just posted, as I said earlier, a YouTube video about why bees are dying, and putting into context our monocrop tendencies that are going around the world now, and how this is damaging
bees,
the way
which is
the bee
amazing.
survival.
We saw this at a bee. We went to a place to buy honey.
Yeah, there's
but I want to finish the introduction, and the introduction is that's Susan Comont. I'm Jeff Bella, and on the line with us is Dennis Carius.
Hello,
Dennis. Dennis will carry us.
Will you carry us, Dennis?
Thanks to Susan and to Jeff for telling the truth. This is great.
Oh, I wish we could say that, but Dennis, we all have to participate, and nobody holds the truth.
One person does
right.
this.
The truth can be more closely kind of corralled if everyone is involved.
Now, sometimes,
and it's never going to be.
So, and we've been talking about.
It's always ahead of us and further away.
Now, we started the program by mistake earlier, so we started it with bridges, with Bill Staines' song "Bridges," which we would normally start at 10 o'clock, and so now we have a full hour to go with you guys, and we're going to try. And the last program we did on Sunday, we had somebody, a caller, and after the program, they emailed us and they said, the problem with your program is you're not giving us a solution.
Well, you're not talking about your solution
enough.
Right.
So we're going to push the idea of this solution like it was an infomercial. And I'm going to keep on doing this at all programs, saying
keep on pushing
that we need a measurement in our vocabulary, that all humanity has to have their basic needs met for about an hour of their work. And you'd have to redefine work too, because taking care of a child, or taking care of someone elderly, or growing a garden, or whatever or painting a painting, or doing music is a form of work. So everybody in the world working 1 hour a day to helping humanity would have their basic needs met, not their wants. I must say wants are what makes us human. My wants are different than someone else's wants. My ambition is maybe stronger or less than someone else's ambition. Their vision as far as a human being is different than my vision. Someone who gets, who can't, I'm a neatness nut, other people are not neatness nuts. That's individual choices. That's what makes us human. But Dennis, did you ever hear of collectivism? And oh, by the way, before we go on, we're going to be talking about, we're going to bring Buckminster Fuller. We're going to resurrect Bucky again today in a few minutes. But I want to ask Dennis if he ever heard of the word collectivism and individualism, and what he understands about those words or about that concept.
Oh, that's a good question, Jeff. It'd be better to hear the answer than for me to just, no, I really don't know. I mean, individualism to me is just like you and I and Susan, we're all individuals. But can you tell me the answer to this?
Well, there's groups out there that say collectivism is not a good thing, and we shouldn't be collectivists. Anybody who wants to get people together are collectivists, and I don't agree with that. I think that you need to be an individual human being, and without people coming together in cooperation, our individual rights are lost. And when
people are saying you've got to be one or the other, you got to be a little suspicious already, because it's in a mix of these kind of things that the best results occur. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive.
No, they have
Being
to.
an individual and working with other people,
It's-
you can do both things.
It divides us. Again, it
Yeah,
divides
it's a way
us.
of dividing.
And it's
people,
like
and-
people tell me,
with
you're a
religion
Marxist. I said,
or
I'm not.
with,
I'm not a Marxist. Marx talked about humanity's labor, but we're not talking about labor. We're talking about a measurement for humanity, which is not the same thing. Well, you're a socialist. You want everybody to have the same thing. No, we are not socialists. We are not suggesting that everybody's going to have a free ride. We're saying basic needs as a human species must be met. Then you work as hard as you want for your individual wants. It's different than your needs. We're not socialists. You could be a multi-billionaire in this day's world and still, but you're not hurting anybody. So therefore, you're doing something that it's not socialism. And we're not making everybody equal. It's not communism. So people love to divide us up, but we are all one. We are one species, a human species. And our species right now, because of the division of all the different religions, all the different social breakdowns, even within religions, we break down different religions. Oh, they're conservatives, they're liberals, they're whatever.
Right. Think of all the.
Stop breaking us down. We are a species that must work within cooperation, within nature.
And that's when we're at our best as individuals working in
and that's how we evolved. And we are individuals. We're individuals when it comes to our thought process. And even that sort of comes together because we all agree that everybody has to have their basic needs met. Most people would, I would say not all, but most people will agree with that for a minimal amount of labor. But the question is answered in this society, who will pay for that? That is not the point. Nature gives us all the energy we need in a few hours a day through the sunlight. That gives us all the energy we need. So nature is giving us, not humanity, you're not working for me to give me that. We're all working together using nature's, God's benefits. So if you can look at it either way. The Pope is saying the same thing in a religious form. We're saying it in a scientific form, that all human beings get their basic needs met because we all use the same amount of life, which is 80 years of age. We discussed that with someone earlier today who's my age, and we said 80 is when we all start dropping off the planet. So that's pretty much nature's number. We all use 1 million calories of food, or energy units for food, and energy units for water, and energy units for shelter. So we can say education, food, and shelter within an hour of our life, a day's worth of work. If you want to work more to have your wants met, not your needs met, you could do that. So to get this to happen, here is your job if you decide to take it. They said, I think that was on Mission Impossible. If you decide to take the job, use your internet, use whatever means you can when you go to a bar or you go to your church groups, talk about all needs.
Or the Home Depot.
Or the Home Depot, or the Lowe's, or the Walmarts, or wherever you go, or the Wendy's, wherever you go. Talk about basic needs should be met. Do you think that you agree to that? If they say, yes, we agree to that, then you say, here's how you do that. You go online, you talk about the Human Renewable Energy Measurement, and you get that out to as many people as possible. And once they start talking about the HRM or the HERM or whatever you want to call that measurement, then our politicians will say, we've got to make sure this.
People are talking about something that they need,
and
they will be talking about it too.
And then the politicians will pick up on it. And then they no longer become a dysfunctional government because they're working within the measurement that all humanity has to have around the world.
Once we're discussing this as a species, we are also starting to live like what we're talking about. And often people ask us, how does it start to look? And I want to read something that I wrote about it. Can I read it?
Yeah, sure.
Before you we only have 20 more minutes.
Before Bucky comes on?
Well, no, I mean, for the whole hour to be
No,
done.
we're gonna do.
Well,
go
we're not
to 11.
sure.
I was gonna bring
Well,
Bucky, I was gonna bring
Well,
Bucky.
bring him
on.
out now while I'm doing this. Then.
Oh, if you want to change the video up, then I bring it.
But anyway, I can read this while you bring
Okay,
him
go
out
ahead.
if you want,
I'm gonna-
because
gonna
it needs to be clarified. And it can, and I mean, this is not just a feel-good type of thing. It could really feel great if we could make it happen, and we will. You know, as a species, we'll either make this kind of thing happen, or we won't be one of the living species on this planet. The planet will still be here. Clearly, nature has lots of other ideas, and we don't have to be here. But right now we are, and we're contributing something essential. And Buckminster Fuller and many other thinkers have asserted that humanity is serving some important purpose at this point in life history on this planet. Whether we'll continue to be interacting with the other life forms, you know, is at this point kind of up for grabs, because we are producing more degenerative and destructive symptoms than creative ones. But I did write something the other day that I hope will make us a little more clear of what we mean by the Human Renewable Energy Measure. And I'm just going to read it verbatim. I hope it makes sense.
Dennis, you want to question you on that now, if it makes sense to you.
Yeah, at the end. What is the HREM? To start, the initial stand for Human Renewable Energy Measure. What this means is that it is possible, if people agree, to measure human needs within our economics with a measurement or equation that expresses these needs in energy units, not money. The needs are basically food / nutrition, shelter, and education, which is also knowledge. These are the basic human needs that are in the Human Renewable Energy Measure. They are expressed or represented in the HREM. There are many, many more human needs and wants, but these three, if they are satisfied for every person worldwide for 1 hour a day of their mature, and that means, you know, over 17 years old, their mature work effort, and
A certain age.
that these things will be provided at these three aspects of a starting point. You know, in your economics, everybody has these needs satisfied for only 1 hour a day of their work effort within the economics of their country or their part of the world. That will allow sufficient human comfort and security from which further individual development can emerge. This concept, that's the most important thing, that the individual must be have the free time to decide, okay, am I going to work more in the economic system and make money instead of just accomplishing the basic needs with 1 hour, or do I use that extra time that I have, because I do have my basic needs met with that 1 hour, to do something else, to think about something else, to be creative in a different way, to start realizing your own potential. And humans do need time. They need uninterrupted, unstressed time, a certain amount of it. They need irritation, but they also need time that is not stressed and fearful and desperate, in order to evolve who they are, their best efforts, you know, and I don't think too many of us can say that we have that kind of time for most of our lives. So what this is saying is that this is kind of outlining a somewhat practical which people always want to know, how does it work? It will evolve how it works, but the important thing is that the needs must be met from 1 hour or less, and who knows, it could be even less than that.
Could be no
And it's-
hours.
and
It could be
it's- and
just machines doing
Not
most of the
unlike
stuff, right?
Social Security, but it's Social Security from birth to birth, or birth to death, or the full cycle. And of course, we carry, as a society, the very, very young and the very, very old. They are not required, of course, to work at all or pay taxes, to my mind, anymore, all that stuff. But that's another thing altogether. So, and I don't want to, just read, because often that puts people to sleep. But what we were trying to say before is, how do humans develop systems that they're willing to live with and to live under and live within? And this is by agreement. We agree. And these are the most natural things that people can do, like breathing in and out. I mean, we do them so unconsciously. In fact, one of our most incredible agreements, once the automobile was built and became, something that everybody has to use, at least in the United States, it's essential that you have a vehicle that works if you're even going to be able to survive in this country. For the most part,
Most people need.
You need to have a car. And so you're going to be on the roads, and you're going to be going, at least 60 miles an hour. In some places, 70, 80. We've been passed by vehicles going much faster than that. But with all these vehicles coming and at each other, the only agreement that is keeping people from, completely demolishing each other at these speeds is that painted double line
Now, a lot of times,
down the middle of the road.
a lot of times in very populated areas, they build walls, and they build.
But not on most.
But on
roads.
most highways in this country and around the world, people have a double
So
line.
this is an agreement.
And that agreement is in France, in Germany, Switzerland. You might drive on different sides of the road, but no one crosses the double line.
Right. And this agreement, was an agreement before the double yellow line. I mean, people were going on either side of a road and not hitting each other. And in other countries that we've been to, I mean, it's incredible, some of the roads that people travel on.
When they
with
put a double line
precipices.
up,
Right.
and in some cases, they have a simple sign that says this is a one-lane road.
Yeah.
You have to back up. You're the one responsible.
And it's all
for backing
logical.
up. And
It's all very
we
logical.
agreed to it.
Right. Because it's logical and because it works.
Now we
And how we come to these kind of agreements, that people communicate with each other. So language is incredibly important. It was our first real one of our first really useful technologies, was that we created language in many different languages, but just the basic existence of that kind of way of conveying thoughts has helped our species leap in great bounds in all different directions. Not necessarily forward or backward or whatever, but it is through language that we come to agreements like this about measurements. So some of the first agreements, as we said before, that we came to as a species were how to, and I'm going to read this from what I wrote, how to measure important aspects of everyday life. For example, distance, time, volume, weight, speed. And many of these measures were created in order to serve the economics, the trade of the time. And as it evolved through the centuries, traders needed time and distance measures to determine when they could arrive at a port to meet laborers who would unload and take to market their goods. Armies also, where did I go with this? See, I wrote it all over this paper. Needed these kind of measures in order to determine how far they would be traveling to meet an opposing force and how much food supply to bring to sustain their armies Farmers needed measures to determine the size of their farmland, and then be able to buy enough seed and crops and crop trees accurately for planting of these lands, and then ascertain how much would be produced and what kind of profit for their work effort was possible. Measurement agreements worldwide have developed over centuries, not by government decree, but by human agreement, grounded in real experience, everyday life. What do we need? What do we need that's important? A person wants to go from here to there and wants to know how long it will take. The need to measure this concept arose, it was resolved, and it held because it worked. So first the need arises, then possible solutions are considered, and by trial and error, the best solution is chosen, and the agreed upon, trial and error and deduction, I must add, and it's agreed upon.
Course of education.
Yes, by most of the interested parties at that point in history. If that agreed upon measure holds for many different circumstances and locations, it becomes more generally accepted, and most people don't even know where it came from. It works. It's accurate enough. We have always done it this way, and we've not gotten into trouble most of the time. This kind of thinking was involved with most of our basic ways of measuring: time, distance, weight, volume, speed. These kind of agreements are the true, greater good agreements. They are there to make things easier for all of us, and are not laws or constitutional agreements, but human agreements. I don't know if I wrote more. Oh,
But
here.
anyway,
Our assertion at this point in human evolution and history is that, and this is what we're asserting with the HREM, the Human Renewable Energy Measure. Our assertion is that at this point in human evolution and history is that we need another humane agreement on a measurement. And as usual, it will start with our oldest and best technology, which is language. People will speak to each other about what they need to have happen that is not happening at this time. People need to ask the question, quote, why does our economic system value profit and not humanity? How can human needs be expressed objectively within our economics? Can an objective measurement be created to express this kind of concept? All these questions can be answered, and a solution can be evolved that satisfies the three basic human needs, the starting point needs.
education,
Food,
food, and shelter.
Right.
Now, I want to. We have Bucky with us, and we have, say hello, Bucky. Now, and someone yelled at me because they said to me, your voice sounds the same as Bucky, and
That's because you're not a
That's because
ventriloquist.
I'm not a real ventriloquist, and they told me to get a better voice. So say hello, Bucky. Hello, guys. How are you?
Well,
But we all know that Bucky really is dead, and we're trying to resurrect his work. So we just bring Bucky in for a light.
and he just came here from a boat because
Right,
look, he's
now,
got a,
Bucky, why did you bring in the that life preserver? Well, because everything has to start with the turn of a wheel. And what I brought the life preserver in to show you.
This is
See,
about
you see?
trim tab.
Right, now, on my gravestone, I use the word trim tab.
Call me trim tab.
Call me trim tab. And that's because you don't turn a boat with the rudder alone. It turns, the big boat, and it turns with a little turn of a trim tab.
That's on the rudder.
That's on the rudder. And that helps the rudder move along and turn fully so it turns the boat. So we're asking everybody out there to be a trim tab. Just a little bit of motion will turn the boat. But you've got to understand which direction you're going to. You can't understand that until
Start talking
you
with
start
each other.
talking about it and moving the trim tab.
And evolving this idea about what needs to be measured at this point in our human species development. Another way to understand the trim tab is what most children do. I know I did it when I was riding in a car you know, with my family as a little kid, I'd put my hand out the window just to feel the air hitting it from the speed of the car going forward.
Yeah.
And you try to hold your hand, you know, level,
Straight.
but you could feel it go, you know,
You move
if you
one
stop,
finger.
yeah,
You
it
move
would
one finger.
start to move your whole arm back. And that's the concept of the trim tab. Just a little bit, you let a little bit that force get under there, and it'll move your whole arm, you know. And it's very, that was what you were talking about a lot,
Right.
Mr. Fuller,
Trim
is that you need to go back to what you observe is really happening in nature. And that the closer you can get what you do as a person individually, and then with other people collectively, the closer you can get to what you understand to be nature's functionality and intent, the more that those activities will be nurtured by the rest of life around you, which you can call nature or the universe or whatever. You used to refer to all this as the universe with a big U, and that was the way that you express, you know, what we really can express.
Right.
Because we don't know
right.
what it is.
Right.
So, but I'm very interested in that aspect. Oh, we're almost at our hour point.
No, we're gonna go to
You gotta do one more?
the full half. Dennis, do you know about the trim tab? We discussed that before.
Yeah, I remember you discussing that before, and I like the way Bucky looks, and I'm watching him when you were talking too. Yeah.
Hello, Dennis. He's saying hello to you.
So, but now the point we're making is, how do we institute the HREM? And Bucky's saying we institute it by just moving a little bit. That's what the
Each person trimming the situation with what they do.
Just like on a big boat or on an airplane, they don't just push the thing down. A little trim goes up. Mm-hmm. And it pushes the wing down, and then it allows the bigger portion to turn.
If you were to force it, the wings would break
off.
Right.
And the same thing holds true with the rudder.
Right.
The rudder needs a trim tab, and everything works in the world, in nature, with a trim tab. The wind blows a little bit on a leaf, and the leaf then moves a bit, and then it develops. It'll either break off, or it'll develop some muscle to hold it, or to some body to hold it. And that sways in the wind just like a tree would. Mm. And it develops, it evolves into that tree that can withstand hurricanes in some cases. In some cases, of course, if it's not strong enough, it'll break. But a lot of cases, over the years, most trees sway in the breeze. A building has to move or it'll break apart. We design things so that it moves.
And we design
Bucky's Buck, you know about that, right? Right.
You design the geodesic dome as a perfect form
structure
that would withstand
based on nature.
Exactly, by a keen observation of nature. And in this case, it was the looking through a microscope, you can see certain viruses protect themselves with a geodesic domes type structure around themselves, and you are able to convert this into something useful to humanity, you know, in very extreme climates. In fact, the military adopted the geodesic dome as a quick structure they could set up in remote areas that was you know, strong enough to hold snow load, and you could regulate the atmosphere within it, you know, to sustain life. You were quite a sailor too, when you loved your sailing and your boats.
That's why I brought
and you observed a lot.
That's why I brought out the life preserver and
right.
talked about the trim tip. And this life preserver says on it, about time. So it's about time we get together. Right there. It says about time.
Oh, it says it on the
very lightly.
Oh, I can't even see it.
Well,
but it used to say it quite more.
So anyway, so that's about time. Is that right, Bucky? Yeah.
Everything's about time.
So we need to, and I'm going to try to help a caller who said to me we need to have a separate voice for Bucky.
Well, if we could synthesize somehow, but we're not that sophisticated.
We're gonna
yet.
see if I can get a voice I can sort of hold up here and synthesize.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Bucky Fuller.
Yeah.
But you realize that we're reading from many historians who've been long dead, who's saying the same things
And
we're basically
philosophers,
saying.
right?
And we all
And religious figures.
since Socrates, this conversation about a measurement or all humanity
Energy
has to
measurement.
have their basic needs met.
And based on energy.
But nobody based it on energy.
No,
units.
that's not true. There have been other measures.
Well, Bucky
where-
did.
Yes, and Tesla
did.
And so energy units to define what we do as a human species. People have been toying with this idea, over hundreds of years, and it keeps popping up. It is an elegant way to do things if you want to be objective, and that's what we want. We want something that isn't going to be easy for people to, and people like to do that, manipulate stuff just for the heck of it, because they do that, because they're in manipulating stuff, they happen upon new stuff, and sometimes it's useful and sometimes it's destructive, and that's always going to be our dynamic. But
But it's only destructive because people are trying to use it, as Dennis, you would say, to be greedy. But I would say
and
that
that's promoted by our economics right now.
right. If you took the economics pretty much out of that would cease.
It would be less dominant, that tendency.
I
don't think
I
it'll
also want to
cease.
bring. I also want to bring up while we have some time that Jacques Fresco from
The Venus
the
Project
Venus is going to be 100 years of age
in
shortly.
March.
And we're going to
And there's going to
hopefully
be a
celebrate it.
celebration in Fort Myers, Florida. And if anybody wants to attend that, contact the Venus Project. That's a website, and the tickets are very reasonable. There'll be a lunch and a full screening of their movie. I've forgotten the name of it now, but it's a movie that the Venus Project
we
has
will
been
try to put
working
that
on
up
for a couple of
online.
years
We
now.
will try to put that
And
up
we're
online.
looking forward to going. We're hoping to be able to maybe film it, and then we will rebroadcast it for you on YouTube and in audio.
Now the reason why we brought
But
Bucky
we've got to
Fuller,
get Roxanne and Jacques' permission for that. We haven't asked them yet.
and the reason why we brought Bucky out is because Susan's been reading your book, Bucky,
Of course.
and the
For
Bucky.
quite a while now,
and
because
it's
as
a
you know,
very big book.
it was very, very thick.
So
And we're halfway through.
So she's going to be reading.
Progress is being
So
made.
I just think.
And we're learning a great deal.
So I just thought you took notes on that. You wanted to bring Bucky's book to light.
Yes.
Would that be okay with you, Bucky? Certainly it would be okay.
And
with me.
I have to say, I've gotten into big trouble asserting that maybe there was a connection between Phoenicians and Venetians, because people online are having all kinds of arguments about that. But you felt that there was a connection, even though there's many hundreds of years between those two civilizations, because they had so much in common.
Right.
But that's lost in history as far as I'm concerned. And if we want to, just considering the kind of things that, in general, that these groups had in common, maybe it wouldn't be such a horrible thing to make their names sort of interchangeable. I don't have a problem with that. But a lot of people do.
That's the same
and
problem
that's a
you run into. The
cul-de-sac.
same problem
But
you
that's
run
what
into.
people enjoy
That's
doing.
the same problem you run into with nutrition or calories.
Or
energy.
food,
When it's the same. It's a mental block that most intellectuals have that make them paralyzed. They can't get beyond that. Please try to get beyond your intellectual capabilities, because your intellectual capabilities are stopping you from going further. Please don't become intellectually paralyzed. Thank you very much. And the way we're going to bring this out on what you could do to move this concept forward. But meanwhile, Susan's going to read a little bit more about Bucky. Is that okay with you, Bucky? Yeah, just great. Go do it.
Go do it.
Thanks, Bucky.
Yay, Bucky.
Susan.
Well,
You're welcome.
I'm always fascinated by your state of mind where you wrote, nature does not require that any of its intercomplementing members, quote, earn a living. And I think that, that's something that we need to realize, is that everything that's part of the life mix, and you included hydrogen and minerals in that. And I agree. I don't think, these things are interacting with us. They're, we have to breathe the oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide, hydrogen, water, everything. We're interacting on this planet, and all to make it continue to sustain life. So, we are working, not in the obvious ways, but, to have had an artificial earning of a living, making a living, this kind of thing overlaid onto our lives, which are inherently creative, if allowed, to be so, and not inhibited by, and right now the huge inhibitor is the way that we operate and have to. We are coerced to operate within our economic system in a certain manner, at different degrees, different parts of the world, but it's getting much more oppressive. The obvious symptoms of this are still the imperialism of the large countries going into countries that are destabilized and intentionally destabilized. We talked about Burundi last week, how this is being intentionally destabilized. And even our president is making remarks of executive
decisions.
What is it?
Executive order.
Executive order that came out just like maybe 48 hours ago about Burundi and how it should behave. Isn't this interfering with a sovereign nation? And they've had an election recently.
The reason why he's doing that is because it's interrupting with our big business in this country
and what's
or
happening
around the world.
And we were trying to express in last week's program, China, United States, and are both heavily invested in East Africa and central lake regions of Africa for their minerals, their oil, their gas, their gold, their cobalt. We're going in, destabilizing what's there so that we can profit on the economical value of these natural resources. And most of them are untapped in terms of, they don't even know how much is there. And they're pushing the populations aside. They're trying to control them through dictators and strongmen in these areas. And it's this horrible genocide. I mean, it can't be called anything else. Millions of people, as our caller last week, who was from Africa himself and born there, and came to the United States and Europe to be educated, but he knew firsthand. He was an adult. Right. What was going on?
I want to take another little break here because again, that same caller brought out, and it was very important. I'm going to ask you later, Dennis, how do we tell people what to do about what we're talking about? We know the problems. We know about dysfunctional economics, which creates dysfunctional government.
Doing it. Right.
We know we're killing people around the world. We're dropping drones. We don't have renewable energy. We know all these things. But so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to give you my solution. It's a solution on how we change the world. And the way we do this is by using social media to promote this simple concept called the Human Renewable Energy Measurement. Online, it's THEHREM.org, or you want to be fancy about it, www.THEHREM.org. Tell your friends about this concept. If you go to a church or a bar, or if you're talking Lowe's, or get into a conversation at the checkout line, we need to get this message out. There's no head on this snake. And I'm going to ask you, Dennis, to repeat this before the end of the program. Can you do that?
Wow, is this a test? This is only a test?
It's only
It's
a
only
test.
a test, but I want to ask you,
Only a test.
it's coming out of your words, how do we get this HREM.org? How do we move this forward? If this is the answer, when we may be wrong,
And that's what people have to agree on.
but we have to agree that all humanity has to have their basic needs met. Their education, food, and shelter for about an hour's worth of labor a day, mind and labor. And that's where people call me a Marxist, but it's not Marxism. We're not saying everyone's equal. We're saying that the basic needs must be met. Then you can use your mind and your ambition to have more stuff if you want more stuff. But all needs must be met. Education, food, and shelter for about an hour of labor, otherwise you have slavery. So that's where I'm coming from. We can do this very simply by understanding Bucky, who has just left us, by the way. Bucky, or what's his name? Nikola Tesla had a measurement for this. Many people around the world over the years, over the millenniums, had ideas about this. But this is the first time in history, thanks to Dr. David Borton, who's actually told us the measurement, that there's an actual measurement measured in energy units that have food and shelter, which was never done before.
Well, it's possible to calculate
So
these
we
things
can now calculate them for the first time in history. So it's time to think about
we're able, we have a worldwide system of
communication.
We have a sense of what the Earth, there are many resources that we are not aware of, but we're aware of a great deal of them and what their potential is, and how they could be distributed fairly amongst all the life on this earth. And first of all, we have to stabilize the activities of our species, because we're having a huge impact. And if we don't stabilize what we're doing as a human species, we can't help all the other life forms on this planet, because they're just going to be exploited in the name of our economics.
I want to quote Bucky again. Bucky says we're on a spaceship, and he wrote a book called Spaceship Earth. And on this book, he says that if we destroy our life support system, which is our air, water, and soil, we're going to die.
And all the other creatures that are like
right.
the
We're going to
plants,
other
the trees, the bees, the
and he calls the sun a support structure, and the moon is
our energy source.
Is our energy source, and our gravitational pull is the moon. So those are the other
Keeps us from
spaceships.
floating into space.
Those are the other ships that are giving us our energy with it. If you want to be religious about it, it's God's creations. And the Pope is saying the same thing. So please read the Pope's encyclical. You've noticed the Pope has died out of the media since they're not covering him anymore, but he's still very active. And we'd love to get someone talking about the Pope. We'll get the Pope himself on our program. It would be great.
Well, we need to take responsibility. This is part of the solution. Each human individual needs to understand their responsibility and then take that responsibility. They have to understand that they are, with their little life, which is a trim tab, as Bucky expressed it. Each of our lives is a type of trim tab, and everything we're doing is having an effect all through our lives. Each of our actions has ripples that go out, and we have to realize this, and within the context of being a United States citizen, we were born that way. Jeff and I, we as a citizen here are absorbing a third of the natural resources of this that we accumulate as a species, a third every year, right? That's what we heard. That was the statistics.
We're thinking more than we need.
And for our small population.
But everybody, the funny part about this is it doesn't matter. There is enough natural resources.
If it is properly distributed.
We don't have to take less.
And not being utilized just for profit. Because when you are using natural resources just to gratify profit, it's just like throwing it out
Well,
into the air.
Bucky puts it even.
It turns
Bucky,
into money,
Bucky,
which means nothing.
Bucky puts it even better.
And it doesn't have
Bucky, let me explain how Bucky puts this.
Right.
All human work and all humanity is energy units. Now we create these energy units, and if you look at if you realize that every car has about 100 horsepower, and when you stop at a light, you may be 10, 20 cars, and they're all waiting,
And
burning up this
getting-
energy.
Like, think of commuting in the morning, especially commuting from the outskirts of Virginia into Washington,
Big
D.C.
cities.
That is one
All
of the
big
worst
cities.
places you can possibly
But
commute
you see
into.
all this energy being wasted.
At the light,
And
or at the stopping point,
So-
or in the traffic
But
jam.
that's the way, if you, like, we are using much more energy than we need.
To go to a job that
We-
is
but
not
no,
probably essential.
We, individual, I am using more energy than I need to survive. There are people who are taking my energy and everyone else's energy in
And
the
using
in the form of money,
And
and they're
using that
hoarding it.
for
And
more
they-
than
so-
they need.
So they're not taking just 20 or
This
30%
is
more.
promoted by our
They are
economic
taking
system.
thousands of percentage more than we are.
They are working within a system that
That-
makes this
Right.
impossible to
And
not do.
But we're not saying they should take less, but we need to distribute the basic needs more. Basic needs, not wants. Everybody has the right. And the more someone wants more, and the more they're willing to be ambitious, and it's going to reflect on us, just like this computer, just like our cell phones, just like our automobiles, just like our tractors. They all became a monetary thing. But you didn't need that to make it grow. It was minds and bodies that made this happen. When someone says in the military, we got to win over the minds and bodies, well, that's so they can feed into the economic system. That's not what we're talking about. Why not help humanity? And once you start helping one another, you'll win the minds and bodies over, as long as you don't give them a Coca-Cola machine and have them work 2 hours to get a drink out of it. I mean, there's something radically wrong with the way we're doing our stuff.
Yeah, your neighbor is not your enemy.
No.
You're another country where people speak a different language or have a different religion. They're not your enemy. They are your companions in a common human species. I just wanted to, I thought of something this morning that, I don't know, maybe makes this a little more clear. Historically, way back, we had immortals who have died for our sins, so to speak. And we're comfortable with that kind of thing because that came to us over, thousands of years of repeating it, in documents that were written, first maybe as just records that were more entertainment and maybe to lift people's spirits within the context of horrible weather that was freezing temperatures and hanging out in a cave forever and ever, while you waited for the rest of the world to defrost. Yeah. People are telling each other stories and trying to keep their spirits up, and they invent immortals and things to explain why horrible tragic things happen, why children die at birth, why we get diseases, why an animal wants to devour you. But ever since we had these kind of thoughts that there can be a proxy for our sins, our activities on earth, that we can that they can be somehow forgiven, or we don't need to take responsibility. And we do this present day. It's even more subtle. It's not just in religions that this is done. It's in our entertainment structure, in our movies, in our games that we play. And you can see it. The actors, they act out stuff that we think we'd like to do, or we want to be that powerful, or they represent desires that we know we'd never practice in our own lives. But in that way, they are being proxies for our,
subtle.
Yeah, they're in a subtle way. We are giving over our lives to this. We are vicariously fulfilling things through these proxies, these immortals, so to speak. And actors, you know, are in a sense little immortals. They never seem to age, and when they do, they don't get jobs anymore. So we know how that works. But the point is here that we need to return to being individuals and living consciously within our environment and understanding what our actions really are, what our communications with a person each day, or our larger communications through you know, something like this kind of technology, what responsibilities hang on this. There's no and when we do that, we start to communicate in a different way, the way in which measurements were created in the past. That's how we decide what is important, what we agree upon that is the most important things that our species needs as we move forward into our survival as a species on this planet. We cannot, each individual cannot be giving over their responsibility and their life and what they've learned to proxies, to immortals, to letting you know, the being satisfied,
having God help us,
or having our vicarious
president help
yes,
us, or Frank Sinatra help us, or
right,
Elvis Presley help us, or we need to take responsibility individually. However, that's part of the collective thinking process. If we all take the responsibility individually, collectively we can help the entire species.
Right. And it is through our individual communication with others, through our sincerity, through our ability to make ourselves understood, and what we feel would be, you know, a future, will contribute to a better future for, you know, all life on this planet.
Now, here's how we get there. You're going to go tomorrow's Thanksgiving.
That's the perfect venue.
So tomorrow at Thanksgiving dinner, when you go to Thanksgiving dinner,
don't talk about politics or religion.
Don't talk about religion or politics, because nobody wants you to. But talk about the Human Renewable Energy Measure.
Yeah, that could be a
So
common
wouldn't
ground.
it be great at Thanksgiving table, all humanity has their basic
Has
needs
sufficient
met.
food? Hey, wouldn't that be
Sufficient
great?
food,
And not
shelter, there's free time to get
what
together and commune with your fellow person.
a wonderful
So Dennis, tomorrow at Thanksgiving dinner, would you bring up the HRM and say, let's take thanks that can't all humanity have the free time to get together with their family, to have good food.
Not just on Thanksgiving.
Not just all the time.
Really.
Have food, shelter, time. My goodness, what a great thing. And the HRM, the Human Renewable Energy Measure, will do that.
If we agree upon
it. If we
it.
agree that it's
And
a good idea.
And we need it in the economic system. It needs to be the main premise of our economics.
So that's the big.
It used to be.
Yes.
The thousands of years, American Indians lived under that kind of premise.
And they had time. They worked harder because they didn't have the technology. But they made sure that they had their dugouts built, and they shared their food.
They had a hierarchy and they had violence, but it was a different kind
it
of
wasn't it wasn't so cutthroat as it is today.
People were
so tomorrow, Dennis, can you do that when you go to Thanksgiving dinner?
And with your cats.
Dennis can do that tomorrow, and Dennis will be giving thanks to Jeff and Susan too.
Well, I don't need that. Don't give that. Help all of humanity.
The individuals.
We have a we have a very close friend of
Don't
ours
stop thinking.
Who's right now in the hospital getting another operation. We're going to go see him tomorrow. His name is Bill Holmberg, and he was a great human being.
He is.
And
he's still here.
He's still, but they're going to give an award to him in Washington on December 4th. In Washington, D.C.
What's the award for?
I have to get the details on
renewable energy.
And he was going to go there, but he can't. So he wrote his speech yesterday that someone else is going to give to him. So hopefully we'll get that out there and put
He
it on.
came out of recovery to write his speech. Amazing.
Right.
I mean,
And he has to go for another
show-
operation
This
tomorrow.
this is an extraordinary,
Dedicated human being.
Yeah.
So he's a great human being, in my opinion, who's really trying to help humanity. He's
Yes.
always talked about renewable energy. He talks about how all people should get together and help one another. He believes top-down works. That's why he got an awards. But we believe that it's not just Dennis or Susan or Jeff. It's got to be from the bottom up, and we got to.
Well, no, I don't think there's top and bottom. I think that shows a certain
No, we need
discrimination
to
there.
get people to talk about
Everyone
the
needs
Human Renewable
to
Energy
communicate.
Measure. So that's where we're coming from. So you think you can get that to happen, Dennis, tomorrow, or what?
Yes, tomorrow I can definitely do that at our Thanksgiving dinner, and I will give thanks to all the great work that Jeff and Susan do.
Well, you can forget about that. Just talk about the Human Renewable Energy Measure. We don't care about us. We care about
We're not going to be around.
We're not going to be around much
either.
longer. And we don't care about that. But we need to perpetuate the concept that Aristotle did, and all of humanity has talked about how do we help humanity. And this is the first time, because of lots of people, that they're saying this measurement is imperative. You're listening to Bridges Programming, sponsored by the HREM. A nonprofit group that we work with is called Renew the Earth.
.org.
Renew the Earth, and the THEHREM is the websites.
Human
Please
Renewable Energy
don't
Measure.
hesitate to look at other videos, specifically that of Zeitgeist moving forward, money as debt, and you'll see a lot of this stuff.
And visit the Venus Project.
Yeah.
And as Doc Fresco said, people who don't think that there's a solution to world problems and to war and poverty are not going to be the people that are a part of the solution. Clearly,
Right.
I don't quote that quite right, but that's sort of the spirit of what he was saying.
Jacques is saying.
With that,
Thanks very much for listening to us,
and thank you.
and we will see you again
They close the
next
factory. You try to stretch your
Unless we have a
paycheck,
special
but it's
program.
never quite enough.
Dennis, thank you.
Energy, energy, it all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone, well here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.
Fossil fuel affects our lives like ripples on a lake.
Cars and farms and factories and trucks.
Supplies go down, our prices soar, our futures are at stake. And when it's gone, it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy, energy, it all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone, well here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees.
Even trash converts to biofuels.
Break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world. We're here to spread the news of energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone, well here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.